Back in 2019, Mikey Musumeci won the IBJJF World Championship with an ankle lock in under 20 seconds. More recently, at the Craig Jones Invitational and ADCC, we saw a bunch of impressive ankle lock submissions. K. Rotolo finishing Matthias Denise, Diego Pato submitting Owen Jones, and Dante Leone catching Mika Galval all happened with ankle locks. Even though it's super effective, the ankle lock still doesn't get the recognition it deserves. Today, I'm going to mainly break down the straight ankle lock, and we'll also briefly go over a few other variations. First, we'll go over some key principles, a simple checklist to follow before trying to go for the finish. After that, we'll get into the finishing mechanics. So with that in mind, let's get started. Now let's break down the key body parts you need to focus on for the straight ankle lock and how to position them for maximum control and effectiveness. First thing in our checklist, our head. Our head should be aligned with the opponent's knee to get the right angle for applying pressure to the foot. This alignment ensures we target the weak part of the foot for maximum pressure. If our head moves out of alignment, we run the risk of not applying enough pressure, making the submission less effective and giving our opponent a better chance to escape. Number 2, our armpit. Once our head is aligned with the opponent's knee, the armpit plays a key role. We want to make sure the opponent's toes are tucked right into our armpit. This gives us control over their foot, and we'll use the armpit to push their toes down, creating pressure and tightening the lock. I'll get into more detail on how to position the foot properly into our armpit when we move to the finishing mechanics. Number 3, our leg configuration. Now let's talk about how to position our legs. The goal is to set up our legs in the way that not only helps maintain or regain head alignment with their knee, but also pulls the opponent's toes back into our armpit. Proper leg positioning ensures that the opponent's knee stays in line with our head. Our legs do more than just control the position. They also prepare us for the next step, whether we're framing to keep distance or hooking to stop them from escaping. Let's break down what hooking and framing mean. Framing is crucial to keep our opponent from crushing us. It helps maintain distance. We should always have at least 3 points of contact or frames to stop them from closing in. The more frames we have, the better control we'll have. And if one frame gets broken, we'll be in a better position to regain it using our other frames. Hooking, on the other hand, is about preventing our opponent from getting away. We use our legs or feet as the hooks to lock them in place. This makes it much harder for them to escape while working on the submission. It's important to remember that while these key elements will maximize your chances of getting the submission, it doesn't mean you can't get the finish without them being perfect. Just as it doesn't guarantee success either. Jiu-Jitsu is often a game of probabilities, and our goal is to use the highest percentage move that work at the highest levels. Finishing mechanics. Now that we've gone over the key principles for setting up the straight ankle lock, let's get into the finishing mechanics. These steps are critical for maximizing the pressure and getting the tap. Let's start with our opponent's toes. Number 1, toes down. The first thing you want to do is collect as much of the opponent's toes as possible by pulling them higher into our armpit. This puts us in a stronger position to apply downward pressure on the foot. From here, we want to think about having our grip at the very end of the opponent's ankle while driving their toes downward. This creates tension in their foot and ankle, making the lock tighter and more painful. The more of their toes you can trap and push down, the more leverage you'll have to finish the submission. Number 2, knee down. Next, we apply pressure to their knee. Using your hand, push down on their tibia or knee area to pin their leg in place. By isolating the leg, you're making it harder for them to relieve pressure or roll out of the submission. And finally, elevate the heel. As you raise your arm up and bridge your hips, their ankles will lift up, making it much harder for them to resist the submission. All in all, think about it like this. Knee goes down while the toes go down. Heel gets elevated upwards, which creates a counter force that hyperextends the ligaments in the foot.